Welcome to tonight's bedtime story. In this quiet journey, you are a Roman gladiator. The year is 78 AD. The Colosseum has not yet been built, but the blood sport thrives across the empire. Beneath the rising sun of Rome, you belong to no one and everyone. You are property. You are a spectacle. You are entertainment dressed as a man. Tonight, we're not telling the tale of a hero who triumphs in the arena. We're telling your story, the reality behind the myths. No golden armour, no slow-motion victory, just bruises, bone fractures, and the unspoken truth. You would not last a week. If you enjoy stories like this, leave a like and let us know in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is over there. We'd love to hear from you. Now close your eyes and prepare to wake up in a cell that smells like sweat, iron, and fear. You wake up to the sound of chains rattling. Not yours this time, just the new man. He screams through the night like the rest of them did. You'll get used to it. You're in a stone cell barely wide enough to lie flat. The floor is stained, not just from dirt, but dried blood. Yours, theirs, who knows? There's no mattress, just straw, matted with sweat and whatever crawled in during the night. The air smells like rusted metal, old vomit, and the sour tang of desperation. And above all that, piss. So much piss. You've stopped trying to find where it's coming from. It's just part of life now. Like the rats, the blisters, the hunger. You're a slave. That part never really hits you until the second or third day. At first, you think it's a mistake. Maybe they'll realise. Maybe someone will explain the rules. But no, you're here because someone richer than you decided your life was worth the cost of training and a chance at entertainment. Maybe you were captured in battle. Maybe you owed the wrong man too much money. Maybe you were born into it. Doesn't matter. No one asks, no one cares. All that matters is whether you'll put on a good show before you die. Your body hurts, always. You don't remember what it's like not to ache. Your ribs are sore from yesterday's drills. Your shins are raw, your hands. Torn open again from the grip of a wooden training sword wrapped in leather, heavy enough to crush a toe if dropped. The training weapons are deliberately worse than the real thing. Heavier, rougher. So that if you survive long enough to get a real sword, it'll feel like a toy. Not that you'll last that long. Training starts at dawn, which is a polite way of saying you're woken up with a boot in the side and dragged out into the open, regardless of whether you slept or just lay there staring into the darkness. Your instructors are ex-gladiators, the kind who survived long enough to earn their freedom, only to be too broken or too addicted to the arena to leave it behind. Their faces are covered in scars, noses bent in ways noses shouldn't bend. One eye here, a missing ear there. They shout in Latin, Greek, and whatever curses they can spit between chewed-up teeth. You don't understand most of it. Doesn't matter. You learn quickly. Or you get hit. The first lesson is this. Your life doesn't belong to you anymore. Your body is not yours. Your time is not yours. Your pain is irrelevant. You will stand when you're told. Fight when you're told. Die when the crowd wants it. This is not a metaphor. You are legally dead. You are damnatus ad gladium, condemned to the sword. The arena is your grave waiting to happen. The only question is how loud the crowd will be when you fall. You train all morning in the sun, even when there is no sun, only heat. The kind that clings to your skin like wet cloth and makes the iron shackles burn against your wrists. You practice footwork on gravel until your soles bleed. You spar until your arms feel like wet clay. And when you fall, which you do often, you land hard. There are no mats, no medics, just dust in your teeth and the smell of someone else's blood on your skin. Meals come when they feel like it. Usually a bowl of beans, sometimes barley mash, a crust of bread that could be mistaken for stone. Meat is a rarity. If you get it, it's a sign. They think you might be worth something. Might be worth keeping alive another week. You eat with your hands if they still work. No one waits for the last man to sit down. You eat, you get up, you keep moving. Hunger is a companion, Not always cruel, just constant. It sharpens the edges of everything, makes you quicker, meaner, more willing to hit hard and early. The water is worse, warm, coppery, stored in wooden buckets shared between dozens. You drink it anyway. You don't ask where it comes from. Your fellow gladiators are not your friends. They're not your enemies either. They're just there. Quiet, watchful, tired, like you. Some are veterans, hard men with silent eyes and missing fingers. Some are barely older than boys, and some, the worst, are still hopeful. Still think they can win their freedom, win the crowd, maybe even earn a patron. Rome loves a story. The crowd loves a winner, but even the winners bleed. And the hope? It gets in your way, makes you hesitate. You've seen hopeful men die the loudest. There are ranks, hierarchies. You're at the bottom, a novitius, not yet proven, not yet branded with the marks that mean something, not yet scarred enough to be interesting. You sleep near the doors, the coldest place, the loudest. You fight the rats for space. Sometimes you lose. Some men here sleep with their weapons, even if they're wood, not for the arena, for each other. At night the sounds come back. Snoring, sobbing, the muttered prayers of men who haven't seen a god in years. The cell reeks of fear. You'd think you'd get used to it. You don't. It sticks to your skin, burrows in your thoughts. You try to remember your old life, a name, a face, a smell. You forget it faster than you'd like to admit. The arena doesn't care who you were. And when you finally do sleep, it isn't rest, it's retreat. A few hours before another boot, another scream, another day in Rome's favourite nightmare. And you've only made it to day 2. You wake up before the boot hits you this time. That's progress. Your body knows the rhythm now, even if your mind is still somewhere between dread and detachment. You no longer sleep through the screams. You wake before them. Maybe that's worse. The air is cold, colder than yesterday, and the straw beneath you is damp again. Either someone pissed themselves nearby, or the gods have cursed this cell with its own climate. You sit up slowly, trying not to move too fast. Your joints protest anyway. You slept in the same position for hours because turning in your sleep risks kicking the man next to you, and fights in the dark rarely end well. Today begins with drills, not fighting, not yet. First, the body must be shaped. You are not a man, you are a weapon. And weapons require honing. You are herded into the training yard with 50 others, all wearing little more than linen tunics dark with sweat and age. The doctors, or your trainers, are already there, already shouting. One of them carries a stick. He doesn't use it for pointing. You line up, shoulders back, feet spread. The ground is hard-packed dirt mixed with gravel, and it scrapes at your soles through thin sandals that were never meant for running, let alone bleeding. They start with footwork, always footwork. You move in circles, in lines, in pairs, back and forth until the world spins. You step, you pivot, you lunge, you dodge, and when you do it wrong, the stick finds your side. Then again, and again. You gasp, not just from pain, but from the realization that your body's betraying you. It's slower today, weaker, and there's no room for that here. Weakness gets you noticed, and not in the way you'd hope. The crowd loves strength. Rome worships it. But in training, it makes you a target. For correction, for punishment. Sometimes, for example, you spar before noon. Your opponent is older, meaner and worse. Experienced. He's missing 2 fingers on his left hand, but that just means he knows how to protect the others. You raise your training sword, a rudis, thick, wooden, and heavy, and try not to let him see you hesitate. He doesn't wait. He never waits. The first hit lands on your shoulder, dull but deep. The second knocks the air from your lungs. You swing back. He steps aside like he's seen it all before, because he has. Then he drives the hilt of his weapon into your ribs. You drop to a knee. You stay there. Up, the instructor says, not kindly, not loudly, just final. You rise, You always rise. The fight continues. It's not about winning. You're not here to win. You're here to last, to survive long enough that someone, somewhere, decides you're worth feeding again tomorrow. The match ends when the instructor says so, or when you can no longer stand. Today, you're lucky. He calls it off before your nose breaks. The older man nods to you, not out of respect but acknowledgement, like one animal recognizing another in the same cage. After sparring comes armor training. You think this will be easier. It isn't. Gladiator armor is not built for comfort. It's built for spectacle. You strap on a manica, an arm guard made of layered metal or boiled leather. It digs into your flesh and restricts your movement. You learn to fight with one arm exposed and one overburdened. Then comes the shield, a heavy wooden rectangle with a boss in the centre that bruises your forearm with every blow. Finally the helmet. If you're unlucky, it's bronze, with a full faceplate and a narrow slit to see through. Visibility? Minimal. Breathing? Optional. You fight again. Not for real, not yet. Just forms, practice, muscle memory. But it's exhausting. Every movement is heavier, slower, harder to correct. Sweat pours from your scalp and pools in your eyes. You wipe it away with a forearm coated in dust and blood. Not all of it yours. The doctors walk among you, watching, judging. Occasionally one will stop, bark a correction, or knock your helmet sideways with a stick just to remind you how fragile your balance really is. Some men get hit harder, the ones who think they're better than they are, the ones who forget they're disposable. Lunch, if it can be called that, comes late, barley gruel with a splash of sour wine. The bowl is passed through the bars and you eat with your fingers, scooping mush into your mouth like a dog licking a wound. Conversation is minimal, no one has the energy. The new man who arrived 2 nights ago hasn't spoken once. His eyes are open, but nothing moves behind them. You've seen it before. Some break early. Others just drift out of themselves like smoke from a fire that died in the night. After lunch, it's mock combat in front of the Lanista, the owner of the Gladiator school. He wears robes, drinks clean wine, and smells like things you haven't known in years. Soap, citrus, confidence. He doesn't shout. He watches, coldly. If he sees something he likes, he gestures. That man will eat better, sleep better, maybe even get a real weapon next week. If he sees something he doesn't like, he gestures again. That man will disappear before nightfall. You don't want to be noticed. Not yet. Not until you're ready. But you also can't afford to be invisible. You're paired against someone your size. That means they're testing you. You exchange blows, not wild ones, controlled, measured. You remember what the trainer said? Show too much rage, you'll die ugly. Show too little, you'll die early. So you give just enough. Grit your teeth. Bleed a little. But don't fall. Not until the match is over. You don't win. But you don't lose either. That, in this world, is a kind of victory. Evening brings chores, cleaning armour, sharpening weapons you aren't allowed to use, hauling water, feeding the animals, not horses but lions. They keep them in cages near the arena walls. You don't get too close. Not because they're dangerous, but because it reminds you, if the sword doesn't kill you, the teeth might. And the lions, they don't cheer. They don't chant your name, they just eat. That's Rome for you. A city of gods and beasts, where you're always one wrong step away from becoming the meal. At night, the cell is worse than usual. A man died during drills. Heat stroke. No one says his name. No one moves his body. He's just there, in the corner, cooling down like meat left on a butcher's hook. You sleep anyway, not because you're at peace, but because you've learned to collapse. When your body gives in, you let it. And you dream, not of freedom, not anymore. You dream of water that doesn't taste like iron, bread that doesn't crack your teeth, and skin that doesn't flinch when touched. Then you wake up. The screaming starts again. Maybe it's the new man, or maybe it's you. That's day 3, and you're already fading. You no longer count the days. That was a luxury you abandoned sometime between the 3rd nosebleed and your first collapse from heat exhaustion. Day and night blend into one another with a sort of hostile efficiency. Sunrise means pain, and sunset means relief only if your ribs haven't cracked under the weight of another man's shield. You know now that gladiator life isn't a climb, it's a loop. The same food, the same drills, the same bleeding, and each cycle carves a little more of you away. The days start earlier now because your name's been noted. Not because you were good, gods no, but because you didn't fall. That's all it takes. You stayed on your feet 1 second longer than the man next to you, and now your file bears charcoal mark in the Lannister's ledger. You're seen, you're watched, and worse, you're now expected to perform. The training field, once a place you stumbled onto half asleep, now feels like the stage before a hanging. Everything is sharper. The cries, the clatter of wooden swords, the dull thump of bodies hitting dirt. Your arms ache from bruises that haven't healed. Your stomach cramps from rations that only fill out your shadow, and your thoughts are thick with things you don't want to remember. What you looked like before, who you were, what you used to dream of. All of that belongs to someone else now, someone weaker, someone dead. By midday you've already taken 12 strikes. You count them not out of pride, but to keep track of what still works. Right shoulder, bruised, left thigh, swelling. Hands, scraped, bleeding, but still able to grip. You've learned to listen to pain. It's your only honest friend now. When it goes quiet, that's when you should worry. That's when something's broken. Then come the endurance drills, running in circles with sandbags tied to your arms. Not metaphorically, actual sacks of sand. Real coarse weight dragging against your shoulders until your posture folds like wet cloth. And there's no cheering crowd, only grunts, the whip of rope against skin, and the sharp bark of a doctor reminding you that pain is temporary, but death in the arena is permanent. There's no pep talk, just exhaustion that smells like old leather and fresh blood. In the afternoon they pair you with someone new, a Retiarius, the net fighter. He's wiry, fast, and fights dirty. Not because it's illegal, nothing here is, but because he knows you haven't trained against his type before. You hold a short sword and shield, heavy, slow tools against his net and trident. The moment it starts, you're overwhelmed. The net hits your face. You stumble. His trident nicks your shin. Not deep, just enough to sting and remind you that even practice here can leave scars. The crowd watching, your fellow inmates, don't cheer, but they do stare, because they know one day it won't be practice, and it might be them across from you. You don't win the bout, no one does. It ends when your shield slips and the doctor steps in. The Retiarius spits near your foot and walks away. Not because he's angry, he's indifferent. You're a body in his way, that's all. You sit there for a moment, dust in your mouth, breathing through your helmet like a dying animal. Then you stand, always stand. Dinner is bread. Again, you'd kill for olives, for meat, for anything that doesn't chip your teeth when you bite into it. A few slices of hard cheese if you're lucky. A splash of wine diluted so much it tastes more like vinegar. You eat anyway. You chew slowly to make it last, to trick yourself into thinking you're still human. At night it rains, the roof leaks, a few drops fall on your chest, but you don't move. You lie still, staring up, counting the drips. 1, 2, 3. You try not to think about the arena, the real one. You've heard stories from those who've seen it. The roar of 20,000 Romans packed into the amphitheatrum tossing bread, screaming for violence. They say it smells like blood and oil and roasted meat. They say the sand sticks to your knees when you fall and it gets into the wounds and makes them burn twice as long. They say the emperor watches sometimes, that he gives the polis verso, the turning of the thumb, to decide who lives and who doesn't. You've never met an emperor, but you've met death. And you know it doesn't always wait for permission. The younger men talk in whispers. Some dream of winning their freedom. They say if you survive 3 years, you might earn a wooden sword, the rudies, and a release. But 3 years is a lie. No one survives that long. Not unless they were born with bronze bones and the luck of Mercury himself. Most break by month 6. Others don't even last a week. The rest, they get one chance in the arena, and if the crowd doesn't like the way they fall, they don't get a second. You sleep with one arm across your chest now, guarding your ribs. Even in sleep, your body remembers what pain feels like. The man next to you wheezes. He took a hard hit this morning and hasn't stood up since. No one speaks to him. No one dares. Not because they don't care, they just can't afford to. You dream again. But this time it's not of food or water or home. You dream of the arena, of sand stained black with blood, of the crowd calling for your name, not to praise you, but to end you. You wake up sweating. You don't know if the scream you heard was from the dream or from the cell next to yours. The next morning it's time for weapons testing. Not practice swords, not blunted spears. Real iron. This is the phase before real combat. They need to know you won't embarrass them when steel meets skin. You line up with the others. Your armour has been cleaned. Slightly. Enough that you can smell the vinegar where the blood was scrubbed away. Your blade is weighed, measured, handed to you like a curse. It's heavier than the wooden one, hungrier. It wants something. You fight a corpse. That's not a metaphor. They've strung up a dead slave in the yard. Limbs outstretched, naked, limp. You're ordered to strike. Not once. Again and again. Thrust, hack, cut. The point isn't to kill. It's to see how deep your blade can go, how well you aim, how clean your blows are. You strike with shaking hands. The smell is unbearable, but you keep going, because this isn't cruelty. It's qualification. When it ends, your arms are numb. Your legs barely carry you back to the cell. You don't speak. You don't look at anyone. You sit in silence and feel the iron in your blood singing like a low hum in your bones. That night the lanista makes his rounds. He walks slowly, taking stock. One of the men is missing. The new one. He broke. They don't bury him. They just move him. Someone else takes his mat. You watch the lanista's eyes pass over you. He doesn't stop. Not tonight. You breathe shallow and careful. 4 days down, and you haven't died yet. But the real battle? That hasn't even started. The day begins not with the clatter of weapons, but with silence. A strange silence. The kind that presses against your ears and makes your stomach turn. You sit up on your mat and look around. No shouting, no orders. Just the low sound of breathing and shifting limbs. Even the guards outside are quiet. It's the kind of silence that means someone's about to die. Maybe today. Maybe you. The doctor enters with a different tone today. Slower, more formal. He doesn't shout. He speaks and everyone listens. A munus has been announced. A public game. There will be combat in 3 days. Real combat. Before a crowd. Before Rome. No wooden weapons. No pauses. This is what you've been training for. Except you don't feel ready. No one does. Even the veterans look pale. Because the arena isn't about skill. It's about performance. You can be good, great even, and still bleed to death on your knees if the crowd decides they're bored. They don't cheer for clean kills. They cheer for pain, spectacle, humiliation. You're told you'll be fighting with a scutum and gladius, a large rectangular shield and short stabbing sword, a secutor, a style built for closing distance, taking hits, and finishing fights quickly. It suits you, the doctor says, because you don't think much. That's not a compliment. It means you follow orders. You swing when told. You fall when told. But this time, there will be no falling, not unless it's final. Preparation starts immediately. The food gets better, not out of kindness, but necessity. They need your body strong. Bruises are tended to with wine and vinegar. Cuts are cauterized. Your muscles are stretched, prodded, wrapped. You're examined like livestock before market. Nothing is done for your comfort, only to increase your odds of not collapsing after the first blow. You're no longer a trainee. You're an asset. They bring out the blood-smeared armour next, not ceremonial, not polished. Real gear, heavy. It smells like rust and sweat and 100 forgotten names. You try on the galea, the rounded helmet with narrow eye holes built to obscure your face and make you anonymous. The crowd doesn't want to see the person. They want the mask, the role, the narrative. You're not a man, you're a type, a thing, a gladiator. Night before the event, sleep is a joke. You lie there in darkness with the others, the walls closing in with each breath. Some pray, others whisper, one man laughs. Not a joyous laugh, the kind that leaks out when your brain is starting to split at the edges. You stare at the ceiling. You think of home, if that word still means anything. You picture the face of someone you used to love, but can't quite remember the name. You try to imagine what tomorrow will feel like, but your mind stops short, like a horse refusing the edge of a cliff. Then comes the march. At dawn you're led through the city in chains, not as prisoners, as advertising. The citizens line the streets. Some cheer, others spit. A child throws a fig at you. It hits your chest and sticks, pulped. You don't react. You keep walking. Past the vendors, the bathhouses, the marble columns. You realise this might be the last time you see the sky without bars around it. The arena is massive. You thought you were ready. You weren't. The noise is unreal, a living thing. It moves. It swells. It breathes. You step into the holding cell beneath the arena floor and everything becomes distant. The other gladiators stand still, their armour dull in the torchlight. Some hum. Some shake. You kneel in the corner, gripping your gladius until your knuckles turn white. Above you, thousands of eyes wait, some hoping to see you win, most hoping to see you die. Then the gate lifts. You walk into the light. The sun hits your helmet like a hammer. The heat is blinding. The crowd roars. You can't see your opponent yet, only the blur of sand and sky and steel. Then he appears, taller than you expected. A Thraex, curved sword and small shield, fast on his feet. You remember your drills. You try to calm your breath, but your heart is thumping so hard it shakes your chest like a drum. He lunges first. You block, barely. The impact numbs your arm. You retaliate, but your strike is clumsy. He moves like water. You move like mud. The crowd boos. You realise you're not just fighting for survival, you're fighting for approval, and you're losing both. The fight stretches into minutes that feel like hours. Your shield is battered, your thigh is sliced, you've lost more blood than you can track, but you're still standing. The Thraex slips on a patch of sand. You strike, not clean, but enough. He falls, and then comes the moment. You stand over him. The crowd chants. You can't tell what they want, mercy or death. You look to the editor, the official. He raises his hand. The thumb is down. You drive your blade in. It's not glorious. It's not clean. It's meat and bone and screaming. You are declared victor. They hand you a palm branch and a purse of coins you'll never spend. You don't hear the cheers, just the blood rushing in your ears. You're led out. Your legs barely move. You vomit in the corridor. Back at the Ludus, they clean your wounds. They don't speak. You lie still as they stitch your side with a hooked needle that smells like smoke. You don't flinch. That night you don't sleep. You stare at the ceiling. You remember the man's eyes. You wonder if anyone said his name. You wonder how many will remember yours. 1 week is over. Somehow you're still alive. But now you truly understand why no one lasts long, and why in truth no one leaves the arena the same. You survive the arena, but the aftermath is where the real pain begins. No one tells you that the worst part of being a gladiator isn't the fight, it's the healing, or rather, the lack of it. Your body isn't your own. It belongs to the lanista, the man who bought you, trained you, branded you. If a broken rib means you can't hold a shield next week, that's a problem for him, not you. So your bandages are tight. Your wounds are packed with whatever passes for antiseptic. Vinegar, ash, occasionally boiled wine. And you're shoved back into the rotation like a chipped tool. The arena doesn't wait. The crowd doesn't care. And your replacements are lined up like meat at the market, fresh and terrified. Your left leg isn't right. There's a pull in the tendon when you pivot, a stabbing pain when you try to run. But you say nothing. If the doctor suspects you're too damaged to perform, you're not sent to rest. You're sent to die, maybe in training, maybe as part of a show. They'll put you in the opening act up against animals or condemned criminals just to give the crowd something to jeer at while they find their seats. Nobody cheers for the limping man. The arena's appetite is too sharp for pity. Training doesn't stop. If anything, it intensifies. Once you've tasted blood in front of a crowd, you're considered viable, marketable. The Lanista might try to build you into a persona. The brute, the savage, the silent killer. You're branded again, this time metaphorically. You're no longer yourself. You're something the crowd can chant. That means more sparring, heavier weights, more forced endurance drills under the sun, until your body weeps sweat and your muscles seize mid-stride. You collapse once, and the sand doesn't forgive. It scrapes your palms raw. Someone laughs. You never find out who. Meals get better, but not generous. Bread, beans, barley porridge, sometimes a strip of pork, boiled until rubbery. It's not about taste, it's about calories, about keeping your frame full enough to make an impact in the ring. A skinny gladiator dies fast and looks pathetic doing it. A fat one is laughed at. You're fed just enough to stay in the sweet spot, strong, durable, intimidating, but not too valuable. If you win too often, expectations rise, and so do the stakes. Your days blur, training, eating, healing, sleeping. Nights are worse. There's no silence in the barracks anymore. The new recruits cry. They think they're being subtle. They're not. You hear them bury their heads in straw mats, whisper names of people who've forgotten them, people who think they're dead. Maybe they are. Maybe that's easier. No letters come for anyone, no visits. Gladiators don't have families. They have owners. You learn to ignore the fear. Not because it fades, but because it becomes normal. Like a rotting tooth or a limp you stop noticing. It becomes part of your bones. You wake up with it, train with it, sleep with it, until the moment it disappears and you realise you've either gone numb or gone mad. Either works. You just need to keep swinging. The next event is bigger. Public games to honour a governor's visit. That means longer spectacles, more blood, and special surprises. You overhear rumours, exotic animals from Africa, prisoners dressed as mythological creatures, mock naval battles in flooded arenas. They want spectacle, and the Lanista has signed you up. Not for the grand finale, that's reserved for the stars, the crowd favourites. You're part of the second tier, the filler, the necessary brutality between comedy acts and executions. Your fight is scheduled against a Retiarius, a net fighter. No helmet, no armour, just a weighted net and a trident. He's faster, more agile. You're stronger, better armoured. It should be balanced. But balance is an illusion in the arena. It's not about fairness. It's about what will make the crowd scream loudest. You train differently. Practice breaking nets, avoiding tridents. You're told to play it slow. Let him dance, let the crowd think he has the upper hand. Then kill him dramatically. You nod, but you know better. If he's good, he'll kill you before the crowd gets bored. Theatrics don't matter if you're bleeding out. The day comes. The amphitheatre is packed. Heat bounces off the stones like fire. You stand in the tunnel, shield ready, Gladius oiled, legs trembling. Not from fear, not anymore. From exhaustion. From the weight of routine. You hear your name shouted, not your real name, the one they gave you. Brutus, they chant. Because it sounds Roman, strong, dramatic. You were born with another name. You've forgotten it. The gate lifts, the light blinds you. Again, always the same. The crowd surges. The other man enters, bare chest gleaming with sweat, trident raised. He whirls the net like a dancer, light on his feet. The match begins. He circles you. You block. You jab. He feints. You feel the net wrap your leg and you panic, slashing down. He jerks it back. You stumble. The crowd howls. You recover. He lunges with the trident, scrapes your shoulder, you slam your shield forward, he tumbles, you follow, you trap his arm under your foot, he struggles, you raise your gladius, then you hesitate, the crowd shouts, some yell for blood, others for mercy, you glance at the editor, thumb down, you stab, it's messy, the trident clatters, the net falls limp, they call you victor. Again, but this time, there's no satisfaction. Just a strange hollowness in your chest. You look at his face, young, maybe 20. He twitches once, then still. You're handed another branch, another coin purse, another round of applause. Back in the barracks you sit alone. You wash your sword in a bucket of water already pink with someone else's blood. You smell like iron and smoke. You don't speak. No one does. One man is missing a hand. Another lost an eye. No one asks how the fights went. It doesn't matter. You're alive. That's the only metric that counts. You think about quitting, about faking injury, but where would that lead? To the mines, to crucifixion, or worse, to being sent to the arena as a joke, unarmed, for the crowd to laugh at as you're mauled by a starving lion. There's no retirement plan, no honourable discharge. The only way out is through a pile of corpses. Or in one. Weeks pass. More fights, more bruises. Your joints ache. You stop dreaming. You don't remember faces anymore. Just weapons. Strategies. The doctor's voice becomes part of your subconscious. Step, block, thrust. Step, block, thrust. It echoes while you sleep. Then comes the announcement. A primus. The top-tier match. And you've been chosen. Not because you're the best. Because you're consistent. Reliable. They need someone who will put on a show and probably die with dignity. You're told you'll face a Mamilio, the big kind. He's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds of muscle and rage. You've seen him train. He doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. He broke another man's collarbone with a single swing last week. They say he used to be a soldier. Then he killed his officer. Now he kills for sport. They give you extra rations. They let you rest a day. That's how you know it's serious. The Lannister even nods to you once. That's the closest you've ever gotten to approval. You polish your armour, you oil your sword, you sleep fitfully, thinking about how this might be it. You're not scared, just tired. On the day of the fight, the arena is fuller than you've ever seen. Nobles, senators, the governor himself, trumpets blare, banners fly. You stand in the tunnel, heart steady, fingers twitching. The gate opens, you step into the light, you breathe in and charge. You charge into the arena for what may be your final fight. The sun slams down like a punishment. The crowd is a storm of noise, faceless and eager. You hear them, but they don't matter. All that matters is the man in front of you, towering, armoured, eyes fixed on you like prey he's already decided belongs to him. You have no illusions. This isn't a match. It's a sacrifice with stage directions. The fight is longer than most. Not because you're evenly matched, but because you're desperate. Every block, every step, every breath is a negotiation with death. His sword crashes into your shield and the impact sends shockwaves through your arm. Your shoulder throbs. You don't know if it's dislocated or just bruised again, and it doesn't matter. You keep moving, you can't afford stillness. Blood pools in your boot. You don't know whose. You lose track of time. The crowd chants something rhythmic. You don't hear the words, just the beat of it. Like a war drum for one. Then something happens. A slip. Not yours. His. Maybe he overcommits. Maybe he underestimates how much pain you can operate through. But your blade finds a gap beneath his arm. It slides in. Flesh parts. Heat floods out. And he falls. It doesn't feel like victory. The arena waits for the signal. Your opponent lies gasping, blood bubbling at his lips. He looks human now. Not a monster. Not a symbol. Just a man. The editor stands, gestures. Thumbs down. The crowd roars. You finish it. It's not a clean death. But it's fast. The way you'd want it. If it were you. You stand there, not triumphant but vacant. Your limbs are lead. You can't hear the applause anymore. Just the high-pitched whistle of exhaustion in your ears. They hand you your reward. A palm branch. Some coins. Maybe a laurel wreath if they feel dramatic. You don't even remember taking it. Someone guides you off stage like a broken prop. Back in the barracks, no one celebrates. Gladiators don't cheer each other. Death is too close to flirt with. You collapse onto your cot. You don't sleep, not right away. You stare at the beams of the ceiling, counting splinters. You know what comes next. More fights, more bruises, more waiting for a lucky blow that ends it all. Because there's no real end to this. Winning doesn't mean freedom, not unless you're granted it, and that's rare. A few men have earned the rudies, the wooden sword that means retirement, but they were stars, crowd favourites, survivors of dozens of matches. You're not there yet. You don't even want to be. What would you do free? You've been someone's property so long you don't remember how to own yourself. Sometimes you think it would be easier to die. Quick, public, remembered. Better than rotting slowly from infected wounds or slipping into madness like the man in the corner who now talks to ghosts. He used to be sharp. Now he whispers to the wall, flinching from shadows. He hasn't fought in weeks. No one talks about it. Your body is a catalogue of pain. Fingers that don't bend properly. A rib that clicks when you breathe too deep. Scars like continents across your skin. You're 27. You feel 70. You've stopped thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow is always the same. Pain, blood, noise, sleep. Sometimes not in that order. You dream of silence, not peace. Just absence. No crowd. No screaming. No clang of metal. Just a field. Trees. Wind. You don't remember what wind sounds like when it's not filled with ash and sweat. Maybe that's why you keep fighting, not for freedom, not for fame, for the smallest chance of nothing. One day they post the matchboard and your name is missing. For a second you think it's a mistake. Then the lanista speaks to you, directly, which he almost never does. Says you've been scheduled for the festival games in the capital. A big honour, he says. You'll be representing the ludus in front of nobles, maybe even the emperor. You nod. But inside you feel cold. The capital means two things, opportunity and finality. They don't send just anyone, they send veterans, fighters the crowd knows, fighters with a reputation, fighters who die spectacularly. You prepare, sharpen your gear, repair your armour, train harder. Your body protests, but you don't listen. You can't. The journey to Rome is long. You're in a cart with other gladiators. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. You all know why you're going. When you arrive, the scale of the arena shocks you. It's massive. A sea of seats. Bigger than anything you've seen. The Colosseum. You'd heard rumours. They were all too small. You're housed in a subterranean chamber beneath the arena. It smells of mould, oil and fear. You sleep on stone, eat rationed gruel, train in silence. The guards are brutal, not like home. Here, they treat you like livestock. You are replaceable, and they make sure you feel it. The day of the games arrives. You're dressed carefully. They want you to look like a hero, like someone the crowd can latch onto. You're painted, oiled, polished, not for respect, for optics. A beautiful victim. Your opponent is announced. Another veteran you've never met. Doesn't matter. You'll meet in the arena like strangers with too much in common. The gate lifts. You walk forward, not as a man but as a spectacle. The cheers are deafening. You can't feel your hands. You step onto the sand, blinking against the light. You look at your opponent. He nods. You nod back. There is no hatred, only understanding. The horn sounds. You fight. It is not clean. It is not glorious. It is not fair. But it is real. Blades clash. Shields shatter. Flesh tears. The crowd howls. You can't tell if they cheer for you or against you. You stop caring. Every move you make is desperate. Every breath is earned. Then a crack. Your arm gives out. Sword falls. He steps forward. Raises his blade. You don't flinch and you stare at him. You wait, but the blade doesn't fall. He hesitates. Then he looks to the editor. Thumbs turn. Not down. Upper. The crowd erupts. You collapse, not from pain, from disbelief. You wake later in the medic's room, bandaged, bruised, alive. A guard tells you the Emperor was amused. You're granted temporary reprieve, not freedom, but a pause. A pause is enough. You return to your ludus, different. Something's changed. You're no longer just a piece. You're a survivor. You'll fight again. You'll bleed again. But for now, for today, you're still breathing. And that, in the world of gladiators, is the rarest victory of all.